This episode of Cast the Craze is brought to you by the following sponsors.
Eagle Raven returns to Kickstarter in its first trade paperback, collecting issues 1 through 4 in one full-color volume. Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, is the story of a unicorn princess exiled into the mortal realm after she is betrayed by her elf prince husband-to-be. Dragons overtake her kingdom, and how she trains to become a knight with the help of an unusual trio of blacksmiths. It's a mature audience telling of the classic hero's journey with a soap opera twist, so check out Eagle Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn, Volume 1 today.
Story Comic is a podcast that focuses on the people behind the words. The host, Bonnie Smith, interviews comic creators of all types and their words and tells stories about comics, comics-based stories, and all other forms of prose storytelling. We've been streaming our show online since late 2019, and it's been amazing to see how many people around the world have come to appreciate the value of hearing stories from people who are just as passionate about their work as we are. So if you're a comic creator yourself, or know someone who is, or if you just want to hear about how your favorite book or comic is made, come check us out, storycomic.com. Welcome to Catch the Craze podcast. I'm your host with the most, Sam the Crazy Man Vera. George is not going to be on this one. He'll be on the next one. He's running a little behind, but without further ado, let's get it.
We are the only show for independents all around, giving you a platform to spread your word all over town. Cast the Craze is the place to promote to your fans with the dream of Medina and Sam the Crazy Man. Subscribe to our show and never miss an episode. It's time to get your mans, listen to us on the go. Updated every week, we never miss a day. Join the squad, come on in. It's time to catch the craze. If you are an independent, catch the craze. Making moves on your own, catch the craze. On your grind in the streets, catch the craze. Join the movement, catch the craze.
Yeah, George, we did it again. Come on now. You know you want to do it. Catch the Craze. You heard me say it before. Welcome to Catch the Craze podcast. I'm your host with the most, Sam the Crazy Man Vera. And I am flying this ship solo. What's up with that? Anyway, so we have a very special guest tonight on. We're going to be talking about Frankenstein, the Unconquered. If you haven't seen the logo in the beginning, we have our guest in the waiting room. It's killing it. It's killing it. Right now, 170 backers, 28 days to go. I would say almost, my math might be off, but about 70%, maybe a little more to go. So they're killing it. So this is going to be fun. Talk about the background, how they got here. The writing is going to be a great show tonight. I want to say thank you to the sponsors. Michael Sammartino with Tech the Gods. Tech the Gods is a great comic book. If you didn't check it out, go check out What's in the Box. I did all 3 issues so far that I featured on What's in the Box. Really good. There's a character called Cliff who gets on my nerves. And so you'll hear all about that in the What's in the Box. Thank you to Daphne Lage with Eagle Raven. She is on her last 40 hours on Kickstarter, and she killed it as well. She knocked it out the park. So she's just riding that Raven to the sunset. So go check out Eagle Raven. The link is in the summary. And Barney Smith, he is a fellow podcaster and a great host. I've been on his show. Very poised. He has that radio voice that I don't have. My voice is just not radio. It's the neighbor, it's the guy next door voice. So, but he has that voice. I mean, like Howard Stern. Like Howard Stern has that voice. You want to listen to Howard Stern on the radio. You might not agree with some of his opinions, but you want to listen to him. Yeah, I'm excited about that. And finally, that I launched There's an Alien in My Toilet yesterday on Kickstarter. If you haven't checked it out, the link is in the summary. You're going to be looking for that thumbnail. Check it out. There's an Alien in My Toilet, book number 3, I Chihuahua. Duty finally gets into a house and meets a Chihuahua named Herman who thinks he's a talking jalapeno. What more can you ask for, right? So the rivalry begins there. Then there's Duty's Monsters on Planet Cthulhu. You want to check that out. That's a stretch goal. You want to unlock that. And that you can add on to your basket. We just launched at 8 o'clock. Today will be the first 24 hours. So thank you, everybody, who joined us last night on the live stream. It was so much fun. And you can see all the Duty paraphernalia behind me. That's my boy. He's my ride or die. Duty wants to say hello. I'm sorry. So what's up? There's Duty. So, that's what we got today. George will be on the next episode. Today is Wednesday. Tomorrow morning, join us for the Morning Brew with the Crazy Crew, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're in Texas, that's 8 a.m. Get your cup of coffee. Join us in the live chat. It's always fun to hear from you during those live chats, and we talk about everything under the sun. So that show is really just for the audience, and we take your topics and we run with it. So join us tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're going to be in the Texas area in October, meet me in Artist Alley. I'll be at the Dallas Fan Festival from the 14th through the 16th, and then at Cowtown Comic Con on the 22nd and the 23rd. You see me and Duty just riding our vehicle. We're off into the sunset. So head over, meet us there if you're going to be there. And I do commissions, so just DM me if you're going to be there with specific things. I take PayPal. I do all that other stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to hit. Since I don't have George here and I'm not going to be carrying this conversation by myself this whole time, I'd rather talk to my guests. I'm going to play this promo and we're going to bring our guests in and we're going to get this party started. But you want to know about There's an Alien in My Toilet? Here it is. Welcome to the third installment of my all-ages, family-friendly comedy sci-fi series. For months, I've been working tirelessly, putting together not one, not two, but 3 amazing stories, all centered around this one amazing character, Duty, from There's an Alien in My Toilet. And I wanted to say thank you to all of the fans who supported us at the conventions and also on the Kickstarter, helping to make it so successful. Now we're back with Book 3, and as always, we have amazing covers and an amazing story, where Duty finally gets into a house and there are humans involved and a Chihuahua named Herman. And just in time for Halloween, I bring you Duty's Monsters on Planet Cthulhu. You're not going to want to miss this one. It's one wild ride. But I also have something for the little ones. This is an activity book, a story book filled with adventures. And at the end, your child can write their own story and create their own characters. So thank you for sticking around for the first 2 issues, and I hope you enjoyed this next series of books that I bring you. Your support, your investment means the world to me, and I can't do it without you. Have a great day. Enjoy reading. What's up, buddy? Welcome to
Hey. How's it going?
It's going good. How you doing?
Doing well. I'm a little. I don't know how I'm going to follow Duty there. That is so cool to have like an activity book. Like I hadn't even thought of that. We have an all ages book as well. I hadn't even thought about an activity book. Man, I'm just green with jealous rage right now. I haven't even started.
Yeah, Duty has it all. He even has his own custom sketchbook.
Oh man, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
So,
cool.
but we're not here to talk about Duty. We're here to talk about Frankenstein.
Hell yeah.
Right? And even though Duty does dress up as Frankenstein, we have something in common. But before we do that, let everybody know who I'm talking to and where you coming from.
Yeah, I'm. My name's Dalton, Shannon. I'm actually out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. Just moved here like March, something like that. Yeah, from Arkansas.
Wow.
So it's been a transition, but comic writer, horror writer, all sorts of that fun stuff. So anything comics, I've got my toe in there somewhere, and happy to be on the show.
That's it. Well, we're happy to have you. So let's go back before we come forward, right? So,
Sure.
Let's talk about what were your influences as a kid? What were you into as far as cartoons, gaming, activities?
Oh man, as a kid, I think I absorbed just about anything in front of me. as a young kid, I was very much into Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men. All those cartoons were in their prime when I was growing up.
Nice.
So I was obsessed with those guys. Had all the action figures, watched all the shows. Had a Sega Genesis, I think, from my dad's Genesis. But then I discovered comics when I was 8 and found out that Batman and Spider-Man were also in these cool little things, and I never looked back. So it was all superheroes, video games. I don't know, Captain Underpants, most things that parents call delinquent media is probably what I was into. All the lower A art.
That's outstanding. I still think that X-Men the animated cartoon had the best theme soundtrack. That
Oh man, it's hard to beat. I have a soft spot for the Spider-Man opening theme.
Oh yes.
But it's tough to beat X-Men, man.
Oh, on Sundays when they had it on the East Coast, when I go to work, Sunday mornings, we had an employee lounge, and there was always TV in there, and I'd get there about an hour early, and just to watch Spider-Man, Amazing Friends, and the X-Men, and right before I started my day. There was no other way to start the day than that. So who introduced you to comics?
That was my own damn fault. I like to say that I was probably the last human being on Earth to pull a comic book off a spinner rack, because it was the year 2000.
Wow.
8 years old, mom was grocery shopping, and then I saw a Spider-Man cover drawn by John Romita Jr., just super striking. And I was in love with Spider-Man, and I was like, well, I got to see what this is about. And then I was like, oh, comics. And literally nobody else in my family was ever into comics. Well, now that I say that, my uncle was, but back in the 70s. And like, he didn't even tell me he was into comics until he found out I was into comics. So like, there was no going back. And I mean, which was kind of cool, because I got to kind of define my own tastes as a kid. Like, usually when somebody introduces you to something, there's the gateway.
Right.
Like if my uncle had introduced me to comics, I would have been huge on Fantastic Four and Iron Man. Right. But as a kid, I was super into Spider-Man. Now that I've grown up, I'm much more into Fantastic Four. But like, so yeah, I got to kind of figure out what I liked along the way, and it was, God, comics are cool.
Oh, comics are fantastic.
Comics are cool.
My mom introduced me to Archie comics when I was a kid.
I love Archie.
That was my entry into and it was actually, I walked into a candy store and I saw a spinner rack, and it was Sergeant Rock and G.I. Joe was so that was my first. Then I got Spider-Man, and then it was a domino effect from that point on. Awesome. You go through phases, right? I was like an X-Men buff. Then when X-Force came out, I was like, oh, I gotta get that. It's like, so as you're evolving and you're growing, initially, what was your goal for yourself before you decided, hey, I want to try my hand at this?
Before I tried my hand at comics specifically, or
like in school, like was there any like your parents like they gear you towards, you need to be a lawyer, you need to be a doctor, you need to do this, so was there a path that you had for yourself before you decided to say, I want to do this?
There's never been a plan B. Ever since that 8-year-old kid found not only Spider-Man, but he also read the Captain Underpants books. The main characters of that book are 2 8-year-old boys who make their own comics. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, I can do that. I love this stuff. I can do that. And so I started drawing and stapling my own little comics together. And I never looked back. There wasn't anything else I was ever like, I should probably do something smarter than comics. But I was nothing else sounds as fun to me as comics. So and mom and dad, bless them, were super supportive. They were like, yeah, no, you go do that. As long as you're fed, like, and you have a roof over your head, like, go follow that dream, do what you want to do. And they've still to this day biggest supporters. It's great.
That's outstanding. So when did you first realize that you like to draw?
I mean, all kids like drawing. I think it's when you get to that age where people start making fun of your skill set that it kind of beats it out of you.
Right.
I mean, to this day, I can't draw very well. That's why I'm a writer. But no, I've always liked to draw, and I still draw. But it was probably that same 8-year-old time frame, 8 to 10 or whatever, where I started to draw with purpose instead of just doodling.
Right.
Where I was telling stories panel to panel rather than just like a picture of Batman here and there. And that kind of, like, you have to plan out each page and each panel and figure out how the motion goes. And even when you're 8 and you're not even thinking about these things consciously, it's still like there. And
Right.
it's kind of intoxicating. Each page of a comic book is a puzzle, and each comic book has all of those puzzles in between its covers that you have to make as one big puzzle to try and solve the best way to tell the story.
Right.
And there's so much that goes on panel to panel, and it really is like an addiction. Like I've got to keep, those guys who do Sudokus every day. I'm just drawing comics every day. It's I don't know. Yeah, probably about that same time is when I started really kind of like, I like drawing. But when I got to the age where people were making fun of me because I wasn't very skilled, I was like, well, at least nobody's making fun of my writing. They're just saying my drawings look like crap. And so then I started to really focus more on the script side of things. And, I'd still doodle them out every now and again, do layouts and things. But I really focused on that writing portion, and to my detriment, I would probably say, because for so long I was waiting for an artist, and then I go all through college and I was like, I'll get into comics, I'll be a writer, it'll be great. And it took until growing up, and I was like, oh, nobody wants to draw my stupid stories. Like I gotta either put up the money or I've got to draw them myself, and I was too young to realize that. So now I'm blessed to be working with some of the best teams in comics, getting to tell and write the stories I've always wanted to tell. And it's been so much fun.
Right, because you touched on my follow-up question was, I know that as a creative, when you hit that fork in the road, when you have to make that tough decisions, like, you know what? I know that I can pull off writing. I just can't pull off the art, because you're basically self-evaluating yourself based on the standards and the trend. How difficult was that decision for you, knowing that people were making, that they weren't really appealing? Your art style wasn't appealing to some people. It's always going to be critics.
Yeah, at the age I pivoted, it wasn't so much a pivot out of like depression or like I'm upset. It was like, oh, I know I'm better at this than I am this portion. Right. So it was just kind of like a natural slide. Okay. Not a whole lot of remorse. Nowadays, it's kind of hard to think about, because I would love to be able to just be a cartoonist and write and draw comics all the time. Right. I love collaboration. I love working with teams. That's how some of the best stuff happens. But there are some things where I'm like, this is maybe a bit esoteric, or nobody's going to want to take a chance on this kind of script. I would really want to just do it myself. I would want to have the full control over that story. Right. And because my skills are a bit stunted in that regard, I have to like build from scratch or let them go. And it's so there's a little bit of that's kind of remorse there of having to pivot and not kind of doing the whole package. But it can't be remorse if you're not happy with where you're at. And I really enjoy writing comics. It's a blast. And someday, hopefully, I can get the art skills to actually be a cartoonist and not just a writer.
Outstanding. So, what was your first script that you wrote? First story. Oh God. Probably something superhero related. I probably did my own Captain Underpants comic book, or Spider-Man, Batman, that kind of thing. The first stuff that really took off and led us to here was probably about 5 years ago or so, because I've been writing scripts
for like 20 years now. But nothing ever became comic books. But
Right.
then about 5 years ago, I teamed up with my co-writer, co-creator, Wells Thompson, and we started doing little 8-page scripts to kind of like writing exercises. And then we started doing our own zines. So
Nice.
we would write them, and then I would draw them. We'd print them out and staple them together, take them to conventions. And so we did horror books, all ages. We did sci-fi, action stuff. That's actually where Frank first showed up, was in these ash cans.
Nice.
So that was probably my first like work that I would just present to the world as a book. And eventually that got the notice of our editor, Andrea, who was with Caliber at the time, and was able to actually get us an anthology through Caliber, Descent into Dread, where a lot of those ash cans got a cool facelift, Frank included, where people who could actually draw drew them. I know it allowed us to really connect with a lot of really talented people, a lot of talented artists, and led to Mechaton and now the Frankenstein ongoing. But yeah, it really started with the ash cans, more or less. Outside of like all of the comics you make as a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's fantastic. So what kind of research did you have to do to understand how to write for comics? Did you do any?
I mean, I love craft. I love the study, people who are like experts in their field, just talking about craft. So as a kid, I was just kind of going blind, brute force it. I mean, there isn't like a way to write comics. Like it's all so nebulous, and honestly, it changes artist to artist sometimes. But I found a template that I liked and that I'm actually still using today. But a lot of the learning came from reading, looking at not only comic books, but like film scripts. Talking to college was a big help as well, because I minored in film, so I talked to a lot of film students, and we had to write film scripts for it, and the pacing within a film script isn't 1-to-1 for comics, but it's good practice. And reading like Scott McCloud books, I devoured all of his works. Anything by Mark Evanier about Jack Kirby, like that stuff was really helpful too. That's when I discovered the Marvel method, and I was like, what is that? So it's all just, it's a lot of reading, figuring out how comics lay out, or maybe even deconstructing a comic you own. Like you take a worn old copy of Spider-Man that you've got, and then you write a script about that comic book panel by panel, trying to figure out how it is built, at least on a cellular level like that. So it's a lot of reading and just a lot of practicing. Really, comics are weird because there's not like a book on how to write comic books, because writing comic books is like writing anything else. You just have to, there might be a bit more direction going on here and there. Like, and especially if you have an artist that you trust and you guys are like simpatico, like you don't even need a full script sometimes. It really is just there's not like an industry standard. And I think that's what's great about writing for comics, is that it's really the best way you can find to present the information. It's like anything else. It's telling a story.
Right. So talk about that first meetup with your partner. How did you meet?
Wells.
Yeah.
Wells, we met in college through my wife, actually. They were friends in college, and she introduced us, and we were like, okay, yeah, you're cool, whatever. But he's an English major, and I was a writing major, and so we ended up in a lot of classes together, especially creative writing classes. And in a lot of what's great about those classes is you get to roundtable your stuff, and it became pretty apparent pretty quick that his energy and my energy weren't the same, but they were on a level the rest of the class wasn't really on.
Right.
Like, there were some very talented people in those classes, but and then there were some that I was surprised got in the door. But like I have a lot of like manic, over the top kind of goofy energy, and he's got a very like down to earth kind of sad boy lit energy, and the heaviness of his work kind of drew my attention, and the comedic work on mine drew his, and we stayed in touch. And eventually, after college, he was kind of trying to get his novel published. Like it wasn't really working out. I was still trying to do comics, wasn't really working out. So I was like, hey, take a look at some of these scripts that I've been writing. Like, what do you think? I'm stuck on a place. I can't figure out how to make the script work. And he took a look at it. He took a crack at it and fixed it. And I was like, oh, this is great. You want to do comics? And he was like, what do I have to lose? And I was like, everything.
There you go.
And I tricked him into working with me on comic books, and it has been quite a ride. He would probably agree, but with some reservations. But it's been fun.
Right. So why Frankenstein? What brought you to Frankenstein's doorstep?
Yeah, Frank is a favorite of mine. I grew up watching the Universal horror monster movies. Karloff's Frankenstein, Bela Lugosi's Dracula, Lon Chaney's Wolfman. I love that old Universal horror stuff. As a kid, I really kind of gravitated towards Wolfman and Creature from the Black Lagoon. They're just like aesthetically really cool. But as I got older, I started watching the films more like I guess a critic or maybe more of a film fan. I started to really appreciate Frankenstein, especially Karloff's interpretation of the character. Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein are art on a way that the rest of that catalog really isn't, right. Maybe outside of the first Dracula. And to watch Karloff portray the creature in like this really sympathetic way, this almost like a child, it was fascinating. So that it was kind of a spark where I was really interested in the monster. And then you go read the original novel, and it's nothing like the film. The monster is much more much more gruff, much more toxic, much more violent, and way more gothic in a way than even that film was somehow. And that kind of splinters into different interpretations, like the Hammer films, and then you get like all the kid stuff with Frankenstein. Like I like to say that Frankenstein is kind of like the Batman of that slate of monsters, because you can make Alvin and the Chipmunks meet Frankenstein, or you can make Frankenstein the Unconquered, and it all still feels like Frankenstein. It doesn't feel like like with Batman, you can do Batman 66, or you can do The Dark Knight, and it still feels like Batman. It doesn't feel like you're doing something wrong. It still feels like the character, and that malleability really appeals to me as a writer, because I mean, heck, Conan meets Frankenstein is like that light bulb of an idea, and you're like, well, yeah, why not? I couldn't do Dracula as a barbarian. That would feel weird. But Frankenstein, that works, and it's badass, and it's cool, and I don't know, that the undead angle too. Like, dude, Frankenstein's just so cool. Right.
I mean, so you guys landed on it. Were there any discussion on the approach when you said, hey, this is the project we want to go with? What was that like, that first initial conversation? Because you're a fan of Frankenstein. Was he as well?
He not as much. He's come around. Because everyone like knows the Universal monsters on like at least a surface level.
Right.
They get it. But I don't know if he had ever like really dug into the material. And so when I mentioned I wanted to, the original idea was like cosmic Frankenstein, like Frankenstein zooming around space with a sword and a ray gun fighting cosmic bullshit or something. Right. But then the sword stuck around, and I was like, oh, Conan, like he looks like Conan sometimes. That's cool. I want to do that. And so when I brought the idea to Wells, I mean, the first thing was, oh yeah, we're doing that. Like that's too metal to not do. Because the first thing was those 8-page ash cans, and I wrote it like one of those old Roy Thomas Conan the Barbarian comics from the 70s, mixed with like kind of like a cosmic Grant Morrison vibe. And it just that tone just kind of clicked and solidified. And Wells was able to like grasp onto that and really dig into it, because outside of Wells is really good at this, where I'm really cool at making great images and cool like high concept stuff. He's really good at like digging into the meat of that and finding out what the actual story there is. Right. So he was able to see Frankenstein as this rage-fueled barbarian figure and being like, oh, yeah, maybe there's some stuff in the original novel that didn't get explored to its fullest extent. Maybe Frank isn't always the victim he thinks he is. And we were able to kind of go deeper than just big guy with sword killing monsters. And we've been able to play off of that really well. And I don't know, the initial pitch was, it's an easy sell. You just got to say Frank meets Conan the Barbarian, and people are like, here's the money, go for it.
Right. So walk us through the premise of, I mean, you're very successful. This is your fifth camp. You've had 5 campaigns successfully launched on Kickstarter. And
it's our most successful so far, no doubt.
Yes, I know. And I mean, I think this is issue number 2.
Correct. Yeah.
So issue number 1, I mean, you killed it.
Oh yeah, issue 1 was our best campaign until this one. Yeah.
Yes, because as we've been talking, I watched you go from 168 to 172 backers.
Yes. We're almost at that 4K mark, man.
Yes.
Remakes get funded in 72 hours. That would be a first. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
And
so
it's a cool bookmark.
There you go. So walk us through the premise of Frankenstein the Unconquered.
Yeah. So 500 years after the end of Shelley's original novel, at the end of the novel, Frank goes into the ice expecting to die. But he pulls a Captain America and thaws from the ice 500 years in the future, where the Earth is a bombed out wasteland full of mutants and monsters. And it's really a chance for him to kind of like start over. Like everyone's just as disfigured and awful as he is. So maybe he can finally find peace. But he very quickly learns that is not the case. Whether that's his fault or not is something that we explore. Right. So Frank starts to cut a swath of destruction across the world. Like he kills monsters, he cracks continents, he pisses off all the wrong people, and eventually they shoot him up into space and exile him. But dude doesn't take it lying down and kills the stars to come back to Earth and seek revenge. So this entire first arc is his revenge quest on those who exiled him to space. Right. And it's bloody, it's metal, and it's Frank with a sword. What more do you want?
Outstanding. I'm going to play your trailer.
Our great trailer. Yeah.
Lies are as abundant as sand in this arid wasteland. Lies and secrets long buried. The eternal dunes coerce and manipulate all who step into this land. They offer a warm bed, a long to drink, a lover's embrace. But the sky burns, the air dances before the eyes, and when the sweat can no longer drip, hideous truth begins to whisper. As that truth is seen in the harsh light of the desert lands, there can be no more hiding from it. Exposed, there are only 2 options: to internalize that truth and leave the sands stronger than before, or to under the weight of it and let the sands consume. Desert is nothing but the eternal lies of its savage sands. There are those who carry truth with them on their warm, wretched backs. And the beast has come to share his own.
That was beautiful. That's fantastic. Who did the narration?
That was actually Wells.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Wells has he's got the face for radio, as we like to say.
That's fantastic, and I love the emotion that's captured with the illustrations. Who's the artist?
That is Mary Landreau. She's a sweetheart. You wouldn't know it from the art. She's a sweetheart. She's I think she's like a 24, 25 Canadian artist. We actually met her when we were working on the Descent into Dread anthology, actually.
Nice.
She drew one of our stories for us in the anthology. Not Frank, actually. She did some sort of like low-key apocalypse sci-fi story. But we loved her art so much. It's so moody and heavy. Like that crosshatch, those shadows, it's dense. And we're like, we can't do Frankenstein if we don't have Mary. And she's been super on board. She's always so excited, or at least she seems excited, because she's like, I never get to draw this kind of stuff. So this is great.
That's fantastic.
Man, and it wouldn't be the same without Dahlia Maha's colors. Like that.
I was about to ask who's the colorist. Yes.
Oh, she like, there's a part of me that really wants to do a Frankenstein the Uncolored, where we have like an artist edition black and white of Mary's inks. Right. But then we wouldn't have Dahlia's colors, and I don't think I can do it without those colors. Like she strikes this great almost ditone balance in a lot of things, where it may not always be realistic, but like this book is not about realism. It's about metal. And her colors just pop, and it's a saturation, but not like a day glow kind of saturation.
It has that vintage Conan feel.
A little bit like if we were printing on pulp. If we were printing on that old paper, like it would be right at home there too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautifully done. That's fantastic. The page layout. I mean, the drama, the emotion, the lighting.
Nathan Kemp makes our words look really great on the page too. He's a fantastic letterer that we've worked with many times, and he brings those narrative captions to life really well. Nice.
And how did you find him?
Nathan, we Twitter, just like most people, we meet him on Twitter or Instagram. And we actually worked with Nathan initially on our all ages book Mechaton. But when we decided to do Frank, we were like, hey, you want to take a stab at it? And it's a completely different lettering style than Mechaton is. It fits the art. It's heavier. It's denser.
Right.
It's got weight. And this team, we're spoiled rotten with this team.
All right. So what are you offering on this campaign? What are people able to get on this campaign?
Yeah. So we've got quite a few options. I mean, we have. I've got it pulled up on my screen too. We've got the digital copies that you can get for about $5. We also have a digital catch-up. So if you missed issue number 1, you can easily get caught up. We still have that in our early bird special. So for the first 72 hours of the campaign, most tiers are 20% off. So you can get issue 1 and 2 digitally for just $7. We've also got the physicals, of course, and a physical catch-up tier, both of which are still in the early bird. And then we have the Not Safe for Work variant cover. It's actually our first from an incredibly talented artist named Flops. Has a great 40s pinup style. Yeah. This is actually his first Not Safe for Work cover, if you believe it. And we're so happy to be trying it, because it's our first too. Like, we were a little hesitant about doing it because a lot of the Not Safe for Work covers can feel a little exploitative. Right. But we felt it really kind of fit the world of Frank a little better than other series, so we decided to kind of dip our toes in, and it's been really popular.
Yeah, that's the trend right now.
Yeah, that's what we noticed.
Duty can't pull it off.
Yeah. We've discussed doing more of the covers for subsequent issues, and trying to kind of experiment with it, so it's not all just like tits and ass all the time.
Right.
And then we have a collector's tier where you can get all 3 of our awesome covers. So not only the Flops cover, but you can get Kaylin Smith's cover, which is kind of like Archie-fied, where we have Frank and our other main character, Larry, who's introduced in this issue, who is the Wolfman, with the great little shadow puppet in the back there. and then Heather Vaughn's main cover, which Heather's covers, if you guys have seen the cover for issue number 1, somehow she topped herself with number 2. That kind of abstract pulp fiction paperback cover vibe she's got, I love it. And you can grab all of those on the collector's tier for smooth 30. We've also got a foil cover. We do that for all of our campaigns. It's extra shiny for all you guys who like shiny covers. That we use a really cool printing that actually makes the interiors a lot more glossier too. So like not only does the cover, but the pages inside pop as well. Right. That's a really fun foil cover, especially when you hold it in your hands. Like it's something special. We have an everything tier where you can get everything listed above plus some. Right. We have a print that Flops drew for our last campaign with The Bride and Frankenstein, as well as a tabletop RPG that we used for the last campaign as well, set in the Frankenstein universe. You can grab stickers, annotated scripts, signed comic, like all sorts of cool stuff. If you're interested in a back page ad for your own books, we offer some ad space in the back for that as well. That's a tier. Right. You can grab a commission from Mary, which why wouldn't you want a commission from Mary?
That's a beautiful piece.
Oh, it's so great.
Yeah.
That she actually works with Todd McFarlane on some Spawn stuff, so that's just a small sample. Yeah. And then we have our Adopt-A-Page tier, which we don't see people doing at all, honestly. In the age of digital comics, there's not a lot of original art anymore.
Right.
So to kind of help with that, since Mary works digitally, we thought we would introduce the Adopt-A-Page, where for the price of the art, you're essentially, that page is yours. So you'll have recognition in the book saying that this page was adopted by you, and then you'll get a one-of-a-kind 11x17 print of that page sent to you. So it's not the hard art of years past, but it is still a one-of-a-kind piece that is yours from the book itself. And it's a first come, first serve, so make sure you grab the page you like the most.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
So yeah, we've been trying to experiment with the reward tiers and the add-ons, trying to make it as affordable as possible. Especially with our last campaign with Mechaton, we kind of ran into a few roadblocks. We kind of poor timing. Economy was taking a pretty big hit at the time we were doing the campaign, so people weren't as willing to part with their cash for the books, which is understandable. I wouldn't want you to anyway. But we thought maybe we could lower some prices, allow people to come in and get what they want and kind of be a part of the whole campaign, rather than just like expecting someone to shill out $500 for something. Like, I would rather you be able to get what you want on the campaign rather than just like dangle something in front of you that you could never have.
Right. Absolutely. I just want to shout out Wildly Drawers, says OMG male gaze comics. So so we're at that stage. I mean, and again, you got another backer as we're talking.
Hell yeah.
So you're like, what? You're almost there.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah, you're getting there. So we're at the stage where I'm going to give you the screen. Deliver your elevator pitch. And why, if there's anybody who doesn't know about you or Frankenstein the Unconquered, why should they back it? And then where can they find you on social media? So go for it.
Yeah. So it's Frankenstein meets Conan the Barbarian. I don't know if there's a greater elevator pitch. I don't know if I could do anything else to pitch it, but it's Frankenstein's monster in a bombed out apocalypse with a sword, killing monsters and getting revenge on those who have wronged him. It's not just a male gaze comic. It has all of those elements in it, but it's also a book about masculinity and what that means to someone like Frankenstein. It's about revenge and victimhood and all of these things that can be twisted if you don't ever grow up, essentially. And it's also just a really cool book where a monster swings swords and fights werewolves and mummies and vampires and dragons. Everything you love about, if it belongs on a Megadeth album cover, it belongs in this book. Like it's over the top, it's metal as hell, it has a heart in the undead machine of Frankenstein somewhere, and it's on Kickstarter right now, issue 1 and issue 2. So if you missed the first campaign, don't worry, come on in. The water's fine. So you can find that on Kickstarter. You can find me on any social media that matters at Dalton K. Shannon. And you can find Wells on Twitter at Wells Thomp, THOMP, where we are shilling the crap out of the Kickstarter right now. And yeah, we also have a Ko-Fi page at Wells Thompson on Ko-Fi where you can buy any issues you've missed. So not only do we have Frankenstein, but we have our all ages book Mechaton, which is very anime inspired. Brother and sister find a glove that turns anything it punches into a giant robot that they use to fight giant monsters. So they punch a hot dog cart, becomes a robot. Punch a house, punch a car. You get the idea. We also have our Descent into Dread book available there as well. And yeah, that's all the internet links. I hope you come by and check out Frankenstein, because we have a lot of fun making it. And so far, people have said they've had a lot of fun reading it. We'll see. Let's hope the pattern continues, because this time we get the Wolfman and the Bride in this issue. So it's not just Frank being Frank like it was in the first issue. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming out. A lot of unique ways to mutilate monsters, and I hope you guys will join us.
Outstanding, brother. I mean, outside of me watching Roadhouse, you're the first Dalton I met.
I get that a lot. Yeah.
I had to say it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're welcome back anytime. Congratulations
Absolutely.
on the success of your campaign. You guys, you know what you're doing. You're a smart group of guys, and your plan is working, and you've built a successful machine. And keep it going. And the star is yours, brother.
Well, hey, thank you so much. I love being on. It was great.
You got it. Anytime. I'll talk to you guys soon.
So yeah.
Peace. All right. So that was our guest. And again, it's Frankenstein, the Unconquered on Kickstarter right now. Go check it out. The link is in the chat. The link is also in the summary. Thank you, Wells Thompson. Thank you, Dalton. Thank you, everybody, for watching tonight. Thank you, Wildy. Thank you for anyone whoever's giving us thumbs up on Facebook. Thank you so much. We appreciate every single one of you. I'll be back in 15 minutes with another guest. We have Dismay Comics coming up, and George will be on that one. And don't forget, There's Nailing in My Toilet is also on Kickstarter right now. And I'm going to leave you with another promo for duty. And with that said, I'm Sam the Crazy Man Vera. I appreciate every single one of you. You guys have a great day. Welcome to There's an Alien in My Toilet, book number 3 on Kickstarter. I am so excited about this right here, this custom sketchbook. I worked really hard to bring something that's unique for each creator in your child. And this is part of a starter kit. And if you pick up this starter kit, only 20 available, every first page of the starter kit will have a custom sketch by me, plus a personalized letter for your child by duty, encouraging them to continue to draw and create new worlds. I can't wait to see what they create. I hope to see you on Kickstarter. Have fun. Have a great day. It's not.
Crazy. Acquiesce.
No, I was talking about my friend Acquiesce. Say my name, right?
This is what you were thinking? Oh,
How you describe me? He said, I'm the...
You're listening to Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze. You are listening to Catch the Craze. On Catch the Craze. You're listening to Catch the Craze.